Welcome to Stand Up Your Tubes, where we control our tubes and they don't control us. Well, I have a project that I'm really excited to show you. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about is how cheap we can make it, how cute it is, and how original. So anyway, somebody had posted on Facebook, was there something new that we could put on the craft table? I've never had a craft table. My first sale is going to be in October, and it's for a woman's restoration center that I'm fortunate enough to be a part of. And so everything I make, I'm paying for it, all my yarn and everything. Some of it's donated and my time, but I still want there to be cost effective. So I thought about what could we put on the table that hasn't been done before, and I searched Facebook, Google, YouTube, and I never found this item. So I think it might be a first. If somebody else has already done it, I didn't find it. So kudos to you if you've already thought of it, but I wrapped my head around it. It took me a few days to figure out how to make it happen. But let me just show you my little friend. Oop, I'm grabbing the wrong little friend because I have four of them over here. This is my friend. Say hi. It's cute. You might just think it's just a stuffed animal, but it's not. I'm going to back my chair up a little bit. It's more than a stuffed animal because, as adorable as it is, look what happens right here. It's a bank, and it's a secret bank because you can't see the slot that's cut in the lid. The felt just self-heals itself. So you put your money in, put the bell over it, and when you're ready to go shopping, you take your money out by unscrewing it. How cute is that? It's got little ball feet that hold it nice and sturdy. This one has a little bit of lint on it because I literally just finished it. It has little pointed ears. I'm not even saying what it is. A little pom-pom for the nose. So here's the exciting part. One 364 skeins, yard skein of the Red Heart Super Saver. Some of you don't like it, but I really do like it. It works great for me. This morning it was giving me fits. I know it's how dry the air is in my RV where I come to make these. So I really did just get a dryer sheet. I folded it into a little square. Let me grab something. And then I just wrapped it around my yarn and put this little clip on it so that it was wrapping my yarn. My yarn was going right into the feeder, and then I had my hand right down here putting the tension on the yarn. It worked really well. And so now, why am I excited? Because for that $3.77 skein of yarn, you can make two of these little creatures over here. So that's $1.88 each. If you buy a plastic mason jar for the insert off Amazon, because I'm in a tiny town, it may be that Michael's or Hobby Lobby have them. I don't know. I'm not going to make a trip to another city to go look. So I looked on Amazon, and they'll be about $1.60. The eyes, a bag of 100 of them, and they're these eyes that I really, really like because the eye sets into a surround that makes this eyelid. And so what I do every time is I take my black Sharpie and I make it black because I think it pops it on. Black is a neutral, so I think it looks better than the brown. So I just do that before I put my eye together because it's a two-parter. 100 eyes were $10.69 on Amazon. So what is that? 10 cents for eyes? Okay, so these lids, the coin lids, were 12 for $5.29. So 44 cents. That's not very much for this. But here's the way that you can get this cost down to about $2.25 per animal. Is if you look in your refrigerator and you have a 30-ounce mayonnaise jar, I'm sure there are other jars that will also work. this lid will screw down on it perfectly. And this, in my little creature, using my bank lid from Amazon, is a plastic mason jar, so it was free. So there you go, $2.25. I don't know what this will sell for, but I know it's going to sell for way more than $2.25. And each one of them has a bell. I got those at Hobby Lobby, 12 for $2.79. So that bell is also very inexpensive, about a quarter. Some of the other things will just be stuff you have laying around, like, for example, to tie the bells on, I've used different kinds of yarn that's just like the really fuzzy big yarn that you might make one of those Afghans that you even knit with your fingers kind of scenario. Or you could use a ribbon, just whatever you feel like using. And then the fur yarn, I got it at Hobby Lobby. I think it was about $6.29, but it was also 30% off. So without much ado about the math, what is that, like $4? And I use it for my animals to go around their ears, to do little pom-poms, to give them pom-poms on their tails, and things like that. So here we go. If you use a mayo jar, you're at about $2.25. If you use a mason jar, a plastic mason jar, you're going to be at about $4.25 with the bell and everything. And so I wanted to mention that when I did my first prototype, that I actually glued that mason jar into the body tube. I cinched the tube up around the opening of the jar, and then I flipped it open so that it was just hanging on the jar. Did a row of glue, a bead of glue on the inside of the jar, and then pulled that tube back down over it and glued it. I thought, wow, that'll really secure it, but it was totally unnecessary. I'm not doing it on the other 3 that I've done, because when you put your lid on, it's going to go back to the same position every time because it has a starting point. If you glue your jar in your tube and then you put your lid on and it doesn't quite go right, you can't adjust it. But if it's not glued in there, then you can just have a little bit of manipulation there if you discover that it's not perfectly horizontal. I like mine vertical. I think it looks better. So that's just a little tip, and I don't mention gluing it. I just mention in the follow-up from here where we're actually making it, I mentioned that I had used glue, and so I don't want you to think that we're going to use glue. Okay, so the row counts will follow. I will put them in the description, but I'm not going to make them part of the video because there's just not much to it. We're just going to have our head and our body tube and our 4 little paws and a tail, and that pretty much does it, because this little guy right here has very special ears because they're part of his head, and that also saves yarn. So enjoy the video. I hope that you will subscribe. I hope you'll like it. I hope I can get a thumbs up. I hope you'll keep coming back so that I can keep giving you free patterns. And with that, it's now starting to thunder. I think a storm is coming in. So I'm going to get off the intro and start with the making of the banks. So for our row count for the body, on your large 46 Addi or your 48 Sentro, do 75 rows. And this is not even stretched out yet, but we'll just stretch it out and get it ready. And going to pull this not all the way snug because it's going around a mason jar, but just get some of that extra slack out of it. Do the same thing with this end. I'm going to try to keep this video kind of short because I call it intermediate, which means that you know how to cast on, cast off, and to get that tube cranked out, and you know how to mattress stitch. And truthfully, there's no mattress stitching on this. It's just being able to neatly stitch it together. Okay, so just snug that up a little bit. Look and see if you have any tuck stitches. Fortunately, I do not. So here's how we prepare this for our, now this is the plastic mayo jar. Yours might be a plastic mason jar. So you'll insert your jar. So if you snug that up really, really tight, it's not going anywhere. And this tube is twisted, you can tell, because these strings should be lining up and they're not. So let's get them lining up and start pulling this one snug. I want to make sure both of them are snugged up around this jar lid. Okay, so that's pretty snug. Bringing this one up. I think I'm going to have to put my lid on here to hold it in place a little better. And you can see that there's plenty of room in here with a tube that's 75 rows long. Okay, I'm a bow tire, so until I know that I'm happy with this, I'm tying a bow. Because I know I'm going to futz with that before I'm done. Okay. Definitely need to snug that up a little better. And so this is the head. And for the head, it's 50 rows. Stretch it out. Wanted to use some of those brighter colors. And again, I'm going to cinch the top up like a beanie, but not so that I can't get stuffing in there. And that is going to be the neck. Because I think we all know how to do ears. And I want to do these ears that are like this. I'm going to show you how to do those. So I'm just going to snug this up a little bit more just to get some of the slack out of it for the neck area. Because we do have to get our stuffing in there. I usually go over about 3 or 4 fingers when I want to, be able to add stuffing. Want to keep it nice and neat. And this is how we can make our ears. Let's line up the bottom of our tubes where we were cinching it together. Lay this down. Make sure it's stretched out good and lined up. And I said we aren't going to mattress stitch, and we really aren't. But I'm going to pause for a minute and get my needle ready and show you how we're going to make this new ear technique. Okay, so here's how we're going to make the ears. And it's the way that ears are done on the top of some of the beanie hats. And in order to get the ear the same size, if you look at this ear up here, when I did this number 3, it was a little hard to figure out if each side was going to be the same. So I'm just going to do a little triangle. And then when I'm sewing the ears, I'll put a triangle. And I'll just come over here and put the triangle on. So we have to sew the top of this up. And we're not, I said no mattress stitching, but okay, so maybe I lied. So we're just going to go under the V-stitch on one end. Okay. And then just come up here and go underneath the top of the row, just to close that up. And then we're going to go under the top of this row. Come get your next row going up the row. Just come up to the top. Get under the V-stitch up there. Come pick up your next one. And your next one. Just keep going into the rows until you get across. When I get there, I'll show you how we're going to shape our ear. Okay, I've gone all the way across the top, and I'm just going to give it that last little snug to pull that tight. And could even pull this way and get a longer end on this and sew with it, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to put a little knot right here and come across on this side and do another little knot and pop it over. That's the inside now. So put your finger in here and pop your ear points up. So you can have nice pointed cat ears. Okay, well, I did use my prototype. Put it up on its ear because I like that ear. So what I did is I took an index card and just folded it on itself. And so it's a triangle. So it is, let me put it on the edge. Oh, look, 2.5 inches coming down the sides here. So let me get one of my cards. I'll show you how I did it. Okay. So I just took one of these note cards and folded it down so that it was following one of my little lines here. But if you didn't have lines and you just have a piece of cardboard, just fold it down like this. Just cut across the bottom just to get it a little bit smaller. And then this would be how I came up with my size. See, it's right on top of here where the writing is on it. Yellow and yellow doesn't show up very good, does it? So come down 2.5 if you want to make it the same size as mine. And put a little line on it to mark it. And hey, look, if I turn it this way where I have the lines on it, and make it easier. So let me do it again. 2.5. Coming down. Totally losing my place here. Coming down here with the lines. 2.5 is on this line right here. Just making a triangle. Okay, now you have a square. And just snip over from the corner going across. And you have a nice little square for your ear. Like this. Because I don't want to have to sew it more than once, trying to get both of them the same size. Okay, just putting it up here, threading up my needle, and sewing across it to give the ear that definition. No stuffing in the ear. Wish I'd had this when I was doing my first one. I'm going to go ahead and tie that yarn, I think. And then all I have to do is bury that end. Put my little guide on here. And you'll be going across your stitches. You know, you won't be in a track. So I'm just going to hold this on and go in and straight down, straight back up, coming right up on my card. Okay, made it across. I'm going to snug it off, tie it right here. And I'm going to leave my tail end because there's still something we have to do. We're not done with that tail. Okay, so I'm going to get a fairly long piece and do the other side so we can have a second ear. And I want to end here. I want to come from the side because we're going to use this to snug this up and bring those ears together. Okay, laying this one on there. I'm going to come in right here and tie my yarn end. Just give yourself a long enough tail that you can thread the needle up and bury it. Okay, I'm going to pause the camera and come up this way, put a little knot, leave my tail there because we're going to need those tails. I'll be right back. We have 2 ears, so let's get rid of these tail ends. Just take them inside that ear and bury them without splitting a thread. Get rid of this one. There we go. Now, where are we going to put our eyes? I wonder. And where are we going to put the nose? So let's just set this aside and make a nose. I'm going to use the blue pom-pom maker. I don't know if they're all created equal, but the part that you're wrapping is about 2 1/4 inches. The actual from here to here. And I'm going to wrap it nice and solid. And I don't know how many it took last night when I made my little creature while the power was off. But I'm going to start counting this. I'm going to wrap it around till it's really, really snug, and I'll tell you exactly how many wraps it is when I'm done wrapping it and I come back. Okay, so it's 120 wraps if you use a single strand, 60 if you can use a double strand. So what I did on this first side is I wrapped it 120. On this side, I grabbed from each end of my skein so that I only had to wrap it 60. I like it better wrapping at 60. It's quicker. So let me just cut this open right down the center. Lots of pom-pom making videos out there. But the secret is to make sure you get every single one of them cut so nothing keeps your tie-off yarn from making it all the way into that little middle pin in the middle. because that's what's going to make it nice and tight and secure. And these scissors from Walmart that were in the $15 range have just been so sharp and so amazing. Great for making pom-poms. Okay, so that's cleared out. I like to use a double thread. I'm actually going to use a piece of white that I have down here. And bring it up through the center here. And I like to use the double yarn so I can really pull it tight onto that little pin in there. And then I go back one more time and tie it on the other end. You know, a lot of times I use 2 different colors of yarn when I make a pom-pom. And that's a pretty nice look too. Okay, this is what you get, 120 on each side. A nice full little pom-pom. Give it some preliminary snipping, those long ones that when you're first starting out, wrapping, they're always going to be kind of long. I want to show you how to line up your eyes. Going by the size of cardboard that I used for my ears, now yours could be a little bit different. I looked to see where I brought my last thread up right here, and then I wanted to find the center. So for me, I have 5 full rows to my center and then 5 full rows here, but it's about getting to the center. Then when I do my eyes, I want to know that they're going straight across. So I counted down, here's my center. And when I look at him, I can see that how many rows I have in between the points of his eyes. And I don't know what size eyes you're going to use. So this is just ballparking. So I'm going to come down. I'm going to count 9 down, 9 down. And then just do a trowel run with this eye right here. Just to see the aesthetic of it for my size of eye. And the look that I was going for was to have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows in between the points of my eyes. It's going to be a little easier to put them on now than it is after it's all stuffed out. So I'm going to just hold my breath and hope that this is going to be a good place for them, because I still have to trim this pom-pom way down, give it some shape, and get it on there for the nose. And always get your eye position the way you want it to be, because once you snap this back on, it's not moving. Or it shouldn't be moving. If it's moving, you probably need to snug it up a little bit. It should not be moving. Okay, safety eyes going on. Because this is not going to be for a baby. Babies don't need banks. Okay, I can pull these out now. Bobby pins are great for marking rows. And just give this an extra little push here. And now we can add some stuffing. And we still have to cinch this up right here to bring these ears together. But let's just put a little gentle stuffing in here. Cinch it up just a little bit more at the bottom. Oops, his ear went in. And that was that piece of yarn I was pulling. Let me get that back up. thought it was my pool yarn, but it was from this ear when I buried the thread. Okay, got to get the points up. Okay, so we left this here because we've got to bring those ears together. That doesn't look good, but when we cinch that up, look how they come up. See? That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to thread my needle and just do the typical, I'm off camera. Huh, I'm going the wrong direction. I can't find my camera. I'm going to go under two here, then the one behind, come and just bring it up. Okay. Till I get to the center. I could have left my pin in there to mark that center, right? All right, in hindsight, you could have left that center pin in there. But I don't think it's going to make much difference. We'll just eyeball center. It'll be, because we have eyeballs to center it with, right? Okay. And turn it around and bring this one up. Okay, I'm going to keep going around one more time. I'm going to take this one all the way to the end. I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Bring this one all the way over to this ear and then tie them together. Okay, so I tied it off right in the center, and I'm going to leave these here just in case we're going to want to bring this together a little more. Okay, so now we can get some more stuffing up here. Okay. And truthfully, when you snug up the neck, you don't have to get it all the way snug because we're going to be sewing around it onto the body. It doesn't have to be cinched up tight like if it was the top of a beanie. Okay, it's getting a shape. And I'm going to tie a bow because that way we can always come back and modify it if we need to. Okay, we have a head started. Off camera, here is our body. Let me unscrew the top. This is our mayo jar. And it's easier to work with the mason jar because it has more of a definition around the top of it to cinch up to. But it was quite possible to get it nice and snug. It's not going to go anywhere. And then make sure your top can go back on. Then from this end right here, I just put my draw cord, I went under a row, over a row, under the row, over, under, over, over, under. And then stuffed it out nicely all the way around. Try to get it, nice body shape and your rows going straight. No indentations. But we can come back. Like right now, I think I might want to put a little bit right here. And just cinch this up a little bit and add a bow. Also, what I did with my beanie, my pom-pom, is I trimmed it up a little bit, made a little indentation coming right down the center, and I did that just by taking my scissors and coming in here and trimming down the center where my nose is going to sit, making that indentation there. I trimmed across the bottom, making it less bulky. it makes quite a mess, but it's going to go onto the face. And then I have two different colors of pom-poms. Either this little black one will nestle down in here, and that just makes the face, doesn't it? Or I might even use a brown one this time. Either way, it's going to be adorable. Maybe I'll use the brown since I used the black before. So the way we are going to work on the snout is to make sure we have it small enough, that we've cut enough off of it, that it's not overwhelming the face, that we have a little trench in it right here for the nose. And when you put that nose in there, you're going to put the glue back in here. We don't want it to come to the front because you'll feel it. So we're going to glue it more like onto the face and at the back, but we want to, when we glue it in there, we want to push it down into that pom-pom like this. And then we can come and cut across the top if we need to. But doesn't that just make the face? So I'm going to thread these yarns up, and the way I sew it on, let me get my needle, as I take one of them and I go under 2 or 3 stitches this direction, sew in it this direction, then I'll take the other yarn and go this way and then tie it, but don't knot it until you make sure that you like the position, that it's centered under these eyes, and that you still have room to pop that nose down on there. So I'm going to pause the camera. Okay, so I threaded this one this way. This one headed this way. You can see when I pull this that it's snugging it up onto the face. Still have more cutting to do on this pom-pom, but it's looking cute. And when I put the nose on here, I can see that it's not too close to my eyes. And I still have room underneath here to sew it onto my body. So I'll need a glue gun to finish that up. And when I'm sure I like that, I'm going to tie these ends into a knot. The glue gun has been heating up, and I went ahead and tied my muzzle on. It looks so big right now, but when you get the nose in there, it does kind of bring it back into proportion. So I think I am going to go with the brown nose. Moving down this way a little bit. So I'm going to find the nicest looking side, and I know it's going to nestle down into my pom-pom here. So I'm going to kind of lay it down on the table here, and I'm going to put the glue back here. Whoops. Spun you around, didn't I? Okay. And nestle that right down in there. And then once I got the nose in there, then play with its little face. Do some more cleaning up. Make sure you don't snip into your body color. That would be a tragedy after all this work. I think you get the idea. It's never done till you say it's done. You can come back and trim this after it's on the body. After it's been sitting on your counter for a while, you might decide to go back and trim it up a little bit more. Sometimes that's what I do. I'll look at it another day. Okay, so there we got a nice little muzzle going. And a lot more fuzz to deal with here. And we're still going to use the glue gun if you want to add the embellishment around the ears. And I think that just coming from the center, from the ear to the center and tying this was enough. I don't have to keep going around. I'll still leave these right here. So what I do, and you have to have a light hand on your glue gun to pull this off. It's all about not putting too much glue, but leave yourself a tail. You're going to put a really, really thin bead of glue. And this is Furby yarn for the moment from Hobby Lobby. And I like it because it has, let me get right up under the camera. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. It's like a mesh. So it's really strong, really strong. It's not just a thin thread in there. It's a mesh. So lining up, being careful, because if you put too much on here, it'll stiffen it up and it'll it'll show. So just a little narrow little bead coming up here to the tip. And then holding my yarn on each end so the fur is lining up, I'll just lay it down over that bead like this, not even putting my fingers in it, but pressing down into that glue. I love this part of it. I love putting the extra special things on there. And it'll adhere itself. And then we'll do the same thing coming down the side, and we'll want to not go too far. So we're going to want to stop right there. So I'm going to just push this up, do another thin bead coming down. Stop it right there. And just lay this mesh down into that. And you have fur. Beautiful fur going around your cat ear. And then come in here and just snip that off. I even kind of took away a little bit of the bulk right there on the end. Make sure it's all on there, and it is. It's so cute. And then we'll come right here where we started it and trim it off there. And I did just kind of trim it up a little bit so it wasn't such a stark, so it didn't just come straight out like that, and played with it. All right, I love it. I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so this is one of the finishing touches for making our head look good. So I'm going to thread up my needle, but I'm going to double yarn it. So I'm bringing both ends through, make it a little more secure. And I want to just bring these ears in. So if you'll notice, if I come right under the ear and I do like this, it just kind of shapes that head and brings them forward just a little bit. It's a better look. Okay, here it is. And here's just bringing them forward a little bit, narrowing that down. So we're going to go right under the ear. You may or may not have fur. And I do have a really long needle, but I'm not going to put it on because I want you to know that it's totally doable. Just squeeze this and get it to come over at the same place on the other side, just right in front of this ear right here. And we don't want to pull this through, so we can put our finger on it if we want to. And then just, that was the front of the ear. Then I just kind of come to the back of the ear. Going to do the same thing. And come out right here at the back of this ear. If you have a long needle, by all means, grab it. Okay. And there it is. Get that needle off of there. And here's where we can just pull it until we like what we see. How far do we want to go? I wouldn't get too carried away. So I'd say that looks pretty cute. And you can always tie a bow. And then after you get your head sewn on and everything, you can come back and fine tune that. Maybe then you'll decide you want it narrower or fatter. But look, it kind of makes the ear come forward a little bit. Alrighty. And it is ready to be sewn onto the body. So what I did to finish this up was just sewed around here, over, under, so I could pull this cord, and I have it all stuffed out nice and neat, snugged up really good around here. Find the side I like the best, and I'm going to sew the head on. Just a little bit back off of here. Plenty of room to sew underneath its nose because you're going to be sewing right in here. And when you get to the back part, you'll be anchoring the head. You'll be coming like about 1, 2, 3 rows back from where you pulled that cord and securing it onto the body with a little bit of an angle. Always looks cute. And so I'm going to do that off screen. I'll do a little bit with you, but I want to show you how to do the paws. So we're going to make 4 of these that are 27, and I went with a bright color, and I'm just going to do both ends like a beanie and cinch them up nice and neat. Make sure they're rolled nice, and pick your best side if you have a good side or a bad side. I do not. Pop that yarn through, cinch it up, cinch this one up. I know it's really hard to see on the purple yarn, but this is just easy peasy. Just give it a snug. Another one, a third one, and then just go ahead and snip it off short. Turn it, and then you don't even have to worry about burying your threads.
Power off.
Okay, so let's pause for a minute and sew around the top, over, under, so we have a pull like this. We're going to put some stuffing in there and then just snug this up a little bit. That helps us when we're sewing it on the body to snug it up a little bit if it's not just splayed out. It really does help to control it. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, so off screen, I went ahead and stuffed out my paws. And this isn't cinched all the way shut. It's just being covered up because I stuck my threads in there. So on the part that's going to go up against the body, this is the part that we cinched. I'm not even closing it up all the way because I want to, have a ball shape, but it doesn't have to be totally round. Where I'm sewing, it just leaves it a little bit more flat to do that. It gives me a more flat surface. So the way I did it, of course, is to put the thread here that I could pull, and then stuffed it down in here. Try to get them all to be the same size. And give it a cinch. Lining them up to see if they look about the same, and I think they do. So I'm just going to tie this in a couple knots. Not closing it up all the way. Not long enough to sew with, so I'm just going to stick this inside the top of the tube. Okay, so the way we're going to sew these on, and sometimes I've discovered it's easier to do stuff like this if you don't have a head or a bunch of body parts. Like when I did the high top sneaker, I discovered, just because I was making that little short video, that it was way easier to sew it on. Oh, I've lost my purple thread. That it was easier to sew it on before it was on the body, because then you don't have the whole head and everything hanging off of it and making it hard to manipulate. So I just was able to get my eyes on my purple thread. So I'm going to get my purple thread and show you how we're going to put these feet on. So I want once your jar is in here, and even though this jar will slide because there's no glue here, I wanted to get it so that this was straight up and down and that I could call that my bottom. I still just have a bow tied here. So let me just flop that up because I want to not call it done until I call it done. So I'm going to bring its feet out underneath, and let me flip it up, but I'll show you. And we're just going to sew them on like this, almost touching where they could be touching. Mine just happened to have just a little bit of space. Just going to go all the way around individually, and then go all the way around this one, and then bring the back ones on. And the way I did it that worked out really well on the other ones is that after I get these 2 front ones sewn on, I see my row right here where I've actually stitched into it, and I just follow it back and I make sure that's the outside of my black back one too. So if I was on this one, when I sew this on, I'm going to make sure that I'm following that same row. So we can put all 4 legs on, stand it up, and it's easier to position the head. So I am happy with this, with the slot going down. That's going to be my center. And I'm going to start around on this side, so when I tie it off, it's not going to be visible. And just start working my way around. Pushing it down onto the body. This is really hard to see because it's like almost like sewing with a black thread. It just absorbs the light. Coming around. And because it's stuffed, we just press down onto it and it makes its own shape onto the body. So we don't have to worry about anything but just sewing around. It's going to find its own place to be sewn. And I'm getting under each of these rows coming down, going under a row on the body and finding the row on the paw pad. Coming around. Doesn't take long at all. It's only a 22 pin. It does want to slip around on the table a lot. Okay, so I think you get the gist of it. When I get back around to here, I'm going to tie it to this one and bury my threads. Then, it actually goes on this side, I'm going to line this one up and sew it on, and they can touch. I think I'll let them touch. They're going to want to go together anyway when they get weighted down with all that money that's going in there. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll just come back towards the back and put these on. And bear in mind that we still have to cinch this tight at this end. So, don't come way back here because we're going to put a tail on here. And I'm going to show you how I sew the tail on. It's a little bit different than you might think. So let's pause and get all 4 feet on. And we are so close to being done. And here is the tail. So the way I did the tail was did 20 rows of my foot color. It could be your body color. And then I did 5 rows of fur yarn. And then I did 1 row, and this was a pinkish fur yarn, so I used 1 row of pink and tied. So after I did these rows, I tied on my yarn for the pink. So I did just a couple stitches on the 22 pin and then did a single tie so I wouldn't lose track of where this was. Then when I got 4 or 5 rows on, it's your choice how big you want your pom-pom to be, I gave a single tie to the pink that I was now adding after I went 2 or 3 pins just to get it off that first black pin, and did a single tie. And then I came back when I got it cast off. I switched to 1 row of this pink, and that's so you can pull it. It's harder to pull this yarn. And I'm going to just snip these off. I've already tied them in knots. I'm going to snip this off, and I'm going to pull up the end of this tail. I'm going to roll these joins and whatnot into the center, but I'm going to give this a nice pull, and we're going to work with it from the wrong side. And why are we doing that? Because our fur yarn wants to roll to the inside of our tube, not the outside. So I'm just going to, it's very forgiving. So I'm just going to snip these tails off, cinch this end up as snug as I can get it, and thread my needle, pull these yarns just kind of to the inside. I'm going to snug this up a little bit down on this end, but not put the torque on it, so to speak. Okay, so these are my joins. I have my fur yarn tied off. One end ties off to the purple, and the ending row, after I've got my fur yarn on, ties off to the pink that I used so that I could get a single row of pink on the end that I can use to pull. And I'm cinching that up, and we're going to bring these yarns in and roll it in half. And this makes your pom-pom on the end. And just bring it up. And you can't really see in the fur, so you're just going to be winging it. Okay. Now we're going to narrow this tail down by rolling it. So kind of bringing the tube in this way and just kind of rolling it to narrow it down. Come on, right up here under where we ended our fur. Probably be better if I was using purple, but purple, bright purple would have showed on the end down there. So I'm going to use what I have. Okay, I'm going to come almost to the top, but not quite, because when we sew it on, I'm actually going to spread this out just a little bit to cover that hole up on the back and sew it on. Okay, before I call it done and put that last cinch on, I'm going to just put a little bit of stuffing down in here just so my tail will stand up a little bit over the back of the kitten. Not putting too much in there, just enough so that it's not wimpy. Just about like that. I'm going to pull it. And now, if I want to, if I pull it a little bit more, I can have it, when I sew it onto the butt, over this hole, it can kind of come forward a little bit. And I kind of like that look instead of it just hanging out like this. I like it to come up over its back. And I do want to switch out of my pink to a purple. So I have just a little bit of a pull on it. And I'm going to tie a knot right here and switch to purple. and not my dark purple. Maybe I'll use my body color. Okay, gonna hide that thread. Get rid of that pink. I don't know, I got an awful lot of purple. Maybe I'll just go for it. Shouldn't really matter which color I'm using. Okay, and this should disappear because we're gonna hold it up over this hole in the butt right here, and we're going to cover it. Just like that. Just opening up the end of this a little bit. I'm going to take one knot to hold the ends together where we cinch this up before I start sewing. Put a knot in it. I know I'm off camera. I just put a knot right in the center here. And rest him right on his, right on this. And center it over the hole right here. And we'll just sew around. And we can't really see our stitches because we're on the wrong side of the tube. So we're just doing our best. I could probably see them better if it was a lighter color yarn too. Put around, keeping track of where the hole is. So my tail goes on straight. Coming up under the cat's tail a little bit. Hold it up to the body. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and knock this off there at the end. I don't know what time that's saying it is, but I know it's getting late. Turn off my alarm too. Okay, I'm going to pause, bury the thread. So we have all of our body parts sewn on, and I wanted to show you how I'm going to handle the lid. So I have my brown, that's what I'm going to use on this one because I used brown fur. I just turn the lid upside down, trace around, and then add about a 1/4 inch so that I can wrap this edge. And then I peel off the backing, lay it with the sticky side up, press my lid down onto it, and then just start taking my thumb and smoothing out any wrinkles, smoothing it down, making sure it gets a good solid connection. Take my glue gun, run a little bead of glue, start that bead going, and then I just hold on to the fur and get the mesh side that the fur is attached to. Straighten this up. And I just lay it down into that bead of glue and just add a little more glue and just keep working it around till I've made it all the way around. It's very forgiving. And then I can just twist it onto the opening of my mason jar. But what I wanted to show you was our finished little guy. And so here he is. He has his little furry ears. I did give him his little furry eyebrows. I've got his muzzle all nice and smoothed out. The lid just screws off and on. His little bell. It's just very, very special. I think it's something different. I haven't seen it before, so I'm hoping that I'm right and that I didn't just miss somebody else's bank. So thumbs up would be lovely. A like would be spectacular. But really, if you subscribe, you'd be the happiest person. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. And I hope that you make banks. Thank you.